There comes a time in every man's life when the ground beneath him shakes. The walls around him close in, and every voice he once trusted falls silent. It is a time when all earthly help disappears, and he stands stripped of comfort and company. At such moments, a man may feel utterly alone, forsaken by friends, abandoned by circumstances, even questioning if anyone cares at all. Yet in the midst of this profound solitude, there is a truth more powerful than loneliness itself. When a man has no one but God, he has everything. This is not a mere phrase to soothe the brokenhearted. It is a truth tested and proven throughout the ages. For the God who created the heavens and the earth is also the God who bends down to lift the weak. When a man has no one else to turn to, he can turn to the one whose love never fails, whose grace never runs dry, and whose power never wanes. Think for a moment about the darkest times you have faced. Perhaps it was the loss of a loved one, when the world seemed to stop spinning and the silence in the room was deafening. Maybe it was the crushing weight of failure, disappointment that shattered your dreams and left you questioning your purpose. Or perhaps it was the lonely night when despair whispered lies into your soul, telling you that no one understood, no one cared, no one would ever come alongside you again. In that place, raw, empty, vulnerable, there is a choice. The choice to succumb to despair or to reach out to the God who promises never to leave or forsake us. The choice to believe that even when every human hand withdraws, the hand of God remains firmly grasping ours. You see, the God we serve is not distant or indifferent. He is near, closer than a breath, more intimate than a heartbeat. He sees every tear that falls in the secret places. He hears every cry that goes unanswered by man. He carries our burdens when we have no strength left to carry them ourselves. There's a story of a man who faced such isolation, stripped of his dignity, imprisoned and forgotten. He called out with nothing but faith in his heart. He did not despair because he had no one else. Instead, he clung to the presence of God, and in that divine companionship, he found strength beyond his own. That strength enabled him to endure what no human should have to endure and to come out victorious on the other side. This is the kind of strength I want to talk to you about today, a strength that does not depend on circumstance, reputation, or human approval. It is the strength that comes when a man has no one but God. We live in a world that often tells us to rely on ourselves, to build our security on wealth, connections, and power. But these are like shifting sands, unstable, temporary, and destined to fail. When those pillars crumble, what remains? God remains. His presence is a fortress, a refuge, a shelter in the storm. His love is a river that flows endlessly, washing away doubt, fear, and loneliness. His promises are the anchor that holds fast when every other hope is lost. Perhaps you have never known such loneliness, thank God for that. But if you have, you know the pain it brings. And if you know that pain, you know the desperate need for something greater, something unshakable. Let me tell you something that can change everything. God's power is made perfect in weakness. When we are weak, vulnerable, and have no one else to lean on, His strength lifts us up. It is in our brokenness that His glory shines brightest. The world measures strength by success, influence, and self-sufficiency. But God measures strength by faith, by trust, by the willingness to surrender when there is no other option. So if you are here today feeling alone, perhaps surrounded by many, but feeling empty inside, I want to remind you that you are not alone. The God who created you knows your name. He knows your struggle. He knows the secrets of your heart. And more than that, he loves you with a love so deep and wide that nothing in this world can separate you from it. In the moments when you have no one else to turn to him. When you have no words to speak, let your heart cry out in prayer. When you feel your strength failing, let his power be your strength. There is a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that can guard your heart and mind, even when the world falls apart. That peace comes only from God. My friend, when the night is darkest and the road is longest, do not give up. Do not despair. Hold fast to God. Because when a man has no one but God, he has everything. Loneliness is a universal experience, one that touches every heart at some point in life. No matter who we are or where we come from, there are moments when we feel isolated, misunderstood, or completely alone. It might be the quiet of an empty room after a loved one is gone, the ache of broken relationships, or the deep sense of being disconnected even in a crowd. This loneliness can be painful, even overwhelming, but it also has a unique purpose. It can become the place where we first truly meet God. When a man finds himself utterly alone, stripped of all other support, it is often then that he becomes aware of a presence greater than himself. In the absence of human companionship, the soul begins to seek something deeper, something eternal. Loneliness, painful as it is, can act as a kind of divine invitation, a call to turn inward and upward, away from the fleeting comforts of the world and toward the everlasting arms of God. Many people spend their lives running from loneliness, filling the empty spaces with distractions, noise, or relationships that never quite satisfy. But when all these are taken away, the emptiness remains, and it is in that emptiness that God's voice can be heard most clearly. The silence of loneliness becomes the silence where God speaks, where his presence is most profoundly felt. It is in the stillness of our souls that God's peace begins to settle, soothing the restless heart. Loneliness can reveal what is truly important, stripping away the superficial and exposing the hunger of the human spirit for connection, love, and meaning. When a man has no one else, he discovers that the deepest need is not for human approval or companionship, but for God's unfailing presence. This recognition opens the door to an intimate relationship with the Creator, who promises never to leave or forsake us. So although loneliness is painful, it is not a curse. It can become a sacred space for spiritual growth, a place where we learn to rely not on the passing comforts of the world, but on the eternal, faithful God who is always near. When loneliness leads a man to God, it becomes a doorway to hope, healing, and strength beyond anything this world can offer. Every man builds his life on something. For many, it is the support of family, the comfort of friendships, the security of a job, or the safety of possessions. These earthly supports give us confidence, a sense of belonging, and stability in an uncertain world. But as strong and dependable as these things may seem, they are temporary. Time erodes them, circumstances change, and no human relationship or possession can guarantee lasting security. People grow apart, jobs are lost, health declines, and fortunes can vanish overnight. What once seemed so solid and unshakable can crumble in the blink of an eye. When storms come, whether they be financial crises, personal betrayals, or deep grief, the supports we leaned on so heavily may no longer be there. This is the painful truth many discover too late. But there is one presence that does not fade, one foundation that remains unmoved by the trials of life. That presence is God. His presence is eternal, unchanging, and constant. While everything around us may shift like the sands of the desert, God's love and faithfulness stand firm like a mighty rock. To understand this is to find a peace that transcends circumstances. When a man realizes that earthly supports can fail, but God never does, he can face life's challenges without fear. Even when everything else falls away, God's presence remains steady and sure. He is the refuge we run to when all other shelters fail. Throughout history, those who have placed their trust in God alone have discovered a strength that nothing can destroy. In their darkest moments, they have felt His nearness, experienced His comfort, and rested in His everlasting arms. This is the kind of security that outlasts every hardship, every betrayal, every loss. So, while it is natural to seek support from people in possessions, true wisdom lies in anchoring our souls in the eternal presence of God. He alone offers a steadfast foundation that no earthly storm can shake. When a man clings to God above all else, he finds a peace and strength that will carry him through every trial, now and forever. Many in this world teach us to be strong by relying on ourselves, to depend on our own abilities, our own plans, and our own willpower. From a young age, we are encouraged to be independent, to take control of our lives, and to prove our strength through what we can accomplish alone. Yet as much as self-reliance is praised, it often leads to exhaustion, frustration, and ultimately failure. True strength, however, is found not in standing alone, but in leaning fully on God. When a man tries to carry every burden by himself, he will eventually be overwhelmed. The weight of problems, pain, and pressure is too great for human shoulders to bear alone. But when he recognizes his own limitations and turns to God in humble dependence, a new kind of strength emerges. A strength not of flesh and blood, but of spirit and faith. This strength is a divine power that sustains the weak, lifts the fallen, and gives hope to the hopeless. It is a power that does not come from human effort or achievement, but flows from trusting in the one who is all-powerful and all-loving. When a man surrenders self-reliance and embraces dependence on God, he taps into an unshakable source of courage and resilience. The scriptures remind us that my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. This means that when we admit our weakness and stop striving in our own strength, God's power fills the void. It is in those moments of surrender that true strength is born. Strength to forgive, strength to endure, strength to hope, and strength to love beyond measure. So the next time you face a challenge that seems impossible, remember that you don't have to face it alone or rely solely on your own abilities. True strength is found in depending on God completely. When a man has no one but God, he discovers a strength greater than any obstacle, a peace that surpasses all understanding, and a courage that never fails. This is the power that sustains through every storm and the foundation upon which real, lasting strength is built. In a world that is always changing, where people come and go and where nothing seems to last forever, one thing remains constant and unchanging: God's love. This love is unlike any other because it is perfect, unwavering, and never fails. No matter what a man faces, no matter how deep the pain, how heavy the burden, or how dark the night, God's love stands firm. Human love, as beautiful and precious as it is, can falter. It can grow cold, be forgotten, or even be rejected. Friendships can break, family ties can be strained, and the love we once held dear can seem distant or lost. But God's love is different. It is not based on our performance, our worthiness, or our circumstances. It flows freely and endlessly, reaching into the deepest places of our hearts, even when we feel unlovable. This perfect love pursues us relentlessly. It chases after us when we run, embraces us when we fall, and holds us close when we are broken. It does not turn away in anger or disappointment, but patiently waits to heal, restore, and renew. Because God's love is perfect, it forgives all our mistakes, covers all our failures, and brings light to the darkest corners of our souls. When a man has no one else to turn to, when all earthly love seems absent, God's love is there, constant and sure. It is the kind of love that does not falter in times of trial, that does not grow weary, and that never lets go. This love is a shelter in the storm, a safe harbor in the raging sea. The promise of God's love is found in the scriptures where it says, "I have loved you with an everlasting love." This means that his love does not end. It does not fade away with time or change with our circumstances. It is a love that has been there from the beginning and will be there to the very end. No matter what you are going through, know this: God's love is constant, perfect, and never fades. When a man has no one but God, he has a love that will never abandon him, a love that will carry him through every hardship and lift him to new heights of hope and joy. This is the love that transforms lives and sustains us forever. There is a profound truth that many fail to understand in the midst of their struggles. It is often in our greatest weakness and deepest despair that God's power is revealed most clearly and made perfect. When a man faces trials that leave him broken, when hope seems distant and strength all but gone, that is precisely the moment God's power steps in, not as a distant observer, but as an active, life-changing force.
Our natural instinct is to fight, to resist, to rely on ourselves to fix what is broken. But human strength has limits. Our bodies tire, our minds become overwhelmed, and our spirits grow weary. It is in those moments when we can do no more that we are invited to let go and allow God's power to work through our weakness.
The paradox of faith is this: true power is not found in self-sufficiency, but in surrender. The Apostle Paul understood this well when he said, "When I am weak, then I am strong." He was not speaking of human strength, but the strength that comes from God resting on a weak vessel. When we admit our frailty and call out to God, his power fills the empty spaces in our lives, lifting us beyond what we thought possible. In despair, God's power brings hope. In brokenness, he brings healing. In the midst of suffering, he brings peace that surpasses all understanding. This power is not always dramatic or flashy. Sometimes it is quiet and gentle, a still, small voice giving comfort and courage to press on. When a man has no one else to lean on, when all human resources are exhausted, God's power is there to sustain, to renew, and to empower. It is the power that enables us to endure trials with grace, to forgive when we feel wrong, to love when we feel hurt, and to believe when all seems lost. So if you find yourself in a place of weakness or despair, today remember this: God's power is not hindered by your limitations. In fact, it shines brightest when you surrender your strength and trust in Him. When a man has no one but God, he is never truly powerless, because God's perfect power fills every void and makes all things new. In the midst of life's storms, when uncertainty clouds the future and the weight of troubles presses heavily on the soul, hope and peace can feel like distant dreams, almost impossible to grasp. Yet there is a source of hope and peace that never fails, that never fades, and that stands firm even when the world around us crumbles. That source is found only in trusting God alone. Human hope can be fragile. We often place our hope in people, plans, or circumstances, things that can change or be taken away in an instant. When those hopes are dashed, despair can rush in, leaving a man feeling lost and empty. But trusting God offers a hope that is steady and sure, rooted not in fleeting things, but in the eternal character of God Himself. To trust God means to believe in His goodness even when we cannot see the way forward. It means to rest in His promises when life feels uncertain, and to lean on His faithfulness when every other foundation shakes. This kind of trust opens the door to a peace that passes all understanding, a peace that guards the heart and mind no matter what trials we face. Peace from God is not the absence of problems, but the presence of His calming Spirit within us. It is a quiet confidence that no matter how fierce the storm, God is in control. It is the assurance that our lives are held in His hands and that He works all things together for good for those who love Him. When a man has no one else to turn to, trusting God alone becomes the wellspring of hope and peace. This trust transforms fear into courage, anxiety into calm, and uncertainty into confident expectation. It is a trust that carries us through the darkest nights and the most difficult battles. So, whatever you are facing today, whatever has threatened to steal your hope or disrupt your peace, I encourage you to place your trust fully in God. For when you do, you will find a hope that does not disappoint and a peace that remains steady through every storm. When a man has no one but God, he is never without hope, and he is never without peace.